Hurricane Irma is moving north of Puerto Rico after devastating the Virgin Islands as a Category 5 storm. I'm Mike Naso. We have 3 hurricanes in the Atlantic, and we're going to touch on all of them. As we get started, let me show you. This is the entire Atlantic basin as it stands right now, and obviously we have our Category 5 Hurricane Irma sitting just north of Puerto Rico. In the Gulf of Mexico, we have Hurricane Katia, which strengthened very quickly from a tropical storm right up to a Category 1 hurricane. And we have Hurricane Jose, which is strengthening here in the central Atlantic. Now, the bad news is all 3 of these storms are a threat to land, and all 3 of them are intense or strengthening. Katia is expected to hit Mexico as a Category 2, perhaps even a major hurricane, Category 3. And Jose is expected to get dangerously close to the exact same areas impacted by Irma in the last 24 hours, also as a powerful hurricane, perhaps a Category 3. Now, of course, the main focus is on Irma, which has already caused devastation and is on track towards the Bahamas and the United States. Now, here's the latest on Hurricane Irma as of 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Irma was at 19.4 north, 66.8 west. Winds still 185 miles per hour, gusting well into the 200s. This is the type of wind that bends steel, flips cars, just as bad as a hurricane can get. That is what we are at now with Irma. It's still moving steady, west-northwest at 16, 916 millibars on its pressure. By comparison, when Andrew hit South Florida as a Category 5 25 years ago, it was at 922. So this storm is 6 millibars stronger than Andrew was. The forecast from the National Hurricane Center predicts that Irma will maintain Category 4 or 5 strength, fluctuate, of course, over the next couple of days, and then make a turn north somewhere. It could be central western Florida, it could be off the Florida East Coast, we don't know yet, but it's going to get so close that there will be impacts, and obviously those watches and warnings will start probably tomorrow for areas of the East Coast. Now, this is the European model as of 12 Zulu time, and by the way, these model maps are from tropicaltidbits.com. Levi Cohen, he does video updates as well, great guy, a lot of good information. Wanted to give him a shout out because everybody is sharing this on Twitter. This is the European computer model, which shows on Sunday Irma over, say, the South Florida Keys area, headed north-northwest as an extremely powerful hurricane. That's the European model. Now, when we move on to the Canadian model, it shows it a little bit further north as a powerful hurricane, more over the Miami area, and then the GFS model shows it as a Category 5 hurricane just offshore. I mean just offshore, Key Biscayne and South Miami, moving almost straight north. What's predicted to happen is there's a shortwave trough that's going to erode the ridge and will draw Irma to the north, but the question is when. And to be honest, nobody can tell. This is very, very hard to predict right now because you can see the computer models predict a rather sharp northward turn. And so where it occurs will be critical. Does it happen when it's south of the Florida Keys? Does it happen when it's still over the Bahamas? Does it happen just south of Key Largo and go straight into Miami? We don't know. And that's why those evacuation orders and the hurricane preparedness is taking place now. And also, it is expected to ride up the coast and be a major hurricane off the coast of Georgia and South Carolina. So if you're further north, you're not out of the woods from Irma yet. There's the radar out of San Juan, Puerto Rico, and there is indication that it's going through an eye wall replacement cycle, or is about to, where the inner eye wall shrinks and dissipates and a new ring eye wall forms. And a lot of times storms expand and weaken a bit when that happens. It could weaken overnight. It'd be nice to get this down to at least a Category 4, but it's so strong right now that you can't predict that, and it's maintained 185 miles an hour for quite a long time, more long than anybody would have predicted, especially after moving over those islands. There's another shot of it on the water vapor imagery as the eye moves north of Puerto Rico, and clearly there does seem to be some degrading there of the eye and the convection starting to look maybe not as powerful as earlier tonight. But you got to remember, when you're dealing with these Cat 5 machines, they fluctuate up and down. So it can jump from 150 to 170 to 160 to 170. It's a moot point. It's an extremely destructive hurricane, and it's headed towards more land with the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos Islands, and Florida. Now I have to touch on Hurricane Jose. At 11 p.m., Jose was at 14.4 north, 47.5 west. Winds were increased to 85 miles per hour, gusting over 100. It's moving west-northwest at 17. 989 millibars is the pressure, and you can see that by Friday night and Saturday morning, Jose is expected to be a Category 3 major hurricane, very close to the northern Leeward Islands that just experienced a direct hit from the strongest hurricane they ever saw in that region of the Caribbean Sea, at least going back since we kept records, which is about 160 years or so. So, we got to keep an eye on Jose. Now, it's expected to weaken and end up moving northwest away from the Bahamas. However, as you go on through time, the uncertainty grows. The computer models kind of have it looping and milling around out here south of Bermuda and north of Puerto Rico for a couple of days. So we'll be dealing with Jose after Irma moves out. Hopefully it doesn't do what Gene did in 2004, which was be weak and kind of get left behind and then come right back under a high pressure ridge. That's always a possibility with storms like this. There's the hurricane on the satellite imagery. You can see Jose starting to pop out an eye there. It's a little bit flat on its western side, and you can see this air here pushing in that direction towards it. That is the outflow, the exhaust, so to speak, from Hurricane Irma. But nevertheless, it's not affecting the core of Jose, and so Jose is intensifying today, obviously with the wind increase. Then we have another hurricane. This is Hurricane Katia. As of 11 p.m., Katia was at 21.7 north, 94.8 west. Winds were increased to 80 miles per hour, gusting over 100. It's drifting east-southeast, very odd direction, very little steering currents for it, at 2 miles an hour, 989 millibars. It's about the same strength as Jose, but it is expected to strengthen almost to a Category 3, and by Friday night, Saturday morning, make landfall south of Tampico and north of Veracruz in the country of Mexico. So we're going to be dealing with another hurricane hitting land. I should note that the upper environment is going to be very favorable, and it's a very small storm, so it could spin up quick. So don't be surprised if another major hurricane comes out. You can see the computer models move it very slow. That could cause heavy rainfall in Mexico. Thankfully, it's not going to do what climatology says it would do, which would be head towards the Gulf Coast. They don't need more flooding rains, obviously. There's the satellite imagery. You can see Hurricane Katia not moving very much at all, but it does have thunderstorms right over the top of it. Tiny little thing, but nevertheless strengthening and headed for land in the Gulf of Mexico. Clearly overshadowed by Irma. So the wind shear is going to be decently favorable for Irma, especially when it gets closer to Florida. For Katia, it's finding a little safe harbor down here. Jose has pretty good wind shear for the next couple of days. So all systems are go for these hurricanes to get stronger as the weekend progresses, and the waters for Irma only get hotter. Again, TropicalTidbits.com has this sea surface temperature map. Look at how hot they get here in the Florida Straits off the southeast coast. If Irma starts intensifying as it turns towards the northwest, we could have a serious problem. So I'm Mike Naso from the video update page on YouTube. Again, catastrophic Category 5 Hurricane Irma moving west-northwest, next in line, Turks, Caicos, and the Bahamas. I'll see you guys next time.